Bonjour.
Bonjour. Comment ça va?
Ça va bien?
Ah, oui.
Um,
That's all I got.
ETH is at the exact same place it was when we started the show yesterday, though it did make new lows overnight. But it did not cause a cascading effect. It seemed that the people in Asia who hit it around the same time hit it, and it has just bounced back to where it was. Nothing, like, again, I think that it is, in the process of bottoming in response to the Fed tomorrow. We got a leak yesterday, right? 75 bips is the new line now on what the FOMC is going to do. That would be a 75 basis point raise. Fed funds futures now have an 80% prediction that is going to happen. And
I was gonna ask, I wonder if there's a spot where you can gamble on this.
Yeah,
it's called the stock market.
You don't even have to go to DraftKings. It's called Fed Funds Futures.
Is that what it is?
The largest casino in the world.
On the same page. Nice.
Exactly. The largest casino in the world has an instrument for every. My favorite, you know what the VIX is, right? I mean, we've probably talked about the VIX a lot, the volatility index.
Yeah.
It's basically the cost of insurance to insure your S&P 500 portfolio against it going to zero. So the scarier things are, the more you pay for that insurance. The less scary things are, the less you pay for that insurance. Well, there is an instrument on Wall Street called the VIX of the VIX. We measure the volatility of the volatility. Wall Street ain't gonna stop, baby. Wall Street ain't gonna stop.
God bless calculus.
Many people, as Mr. Keck is pointing out, subscribe to the saying that a market cannot bottom until the VIX spike and smash. And the VIX spike would be somewhere around 45. And then we would smash it back to under 20 on the rebound. I hope so, Mr. Keck. I am of the belief. What I thought would happen here, I got
shoves, by the way.
It is.
Oh, you do that.
Yeah, we deciphered that yesterday. I like the name though, so I'm calling him Mr. Keck. I was of the belief that we would get a pretty major summer counter trend rally before making new lows on S&Ps. People thought this was bullish. I actually thought that would be precarious, as it would set up newer lows in the fall, which would be much more, that would hurt a lot more people than just making a new low right now, right? Everybody's programmed for recession, bearish market. Nobody wants to buy anything. It would be a lot gentler on the populace to make a new low right now, as opposed to a bull trap over the summer and then a new low. If we could somehow get a major flush, extremely aggressive action by the Fed here, you know why the Fed doesn't want to raise rates? Okay, the Fed does not want to get more aggressive. The Fed does not want to raise rates. And the reason is because this is underlying the strongest economy that we have seen in a very long time. That is why they're having a hard time even getting prices down. Underneath is one of the most rip-roaring economies the West has seen in decades. I am telling you, while you, who owns risk assets and participates in markets every day, Main Street doesn't really feel like the only time they feel like we're in a recession is when they go on the news. And I know that because I go out, I see restaurants absolutely full. I see airline capacity up there. And I know that airlines have reduced routes a bit. And I know it's not quite pre-COVID levels, but it's not the type of levels you see during a recession. Okay. And yes, they're just starting to soften wage pressure and all that stuff. And it is thanks to the Fed raising rates. But I don't think that it's having as material effect as they'd like because of the underlying strength. And they know that the moment supply chains start to loosen up, which have already started happening, the war in Ukraine starts to lessen, okay? That's going to take the majority of inflation pressure off. And I would expect to see them, pause as that happens. So this is what Wednesday seems to be is if they can raise it enough, I think markets will say, okay, you've finally done enough. We can chill now, but we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, is there any chance that the leaked 75 number would be kind of a pump fake to be like, surprise, it was 50 all along? Like,
no, that would be very.
They don't want to ramp things up again, right?
I think there's a few bearish scenarios and a few bullish scenarios for Wednesday. And a bearish scenario right now would be they do nothing and keep it absolutely the same, because the market sent a message to them yesterday. You need to do something. We don't know what, but you need to do something. If that means more rates, if that means a different type of language, you need to do something to make good on whatever that inflation number was that just printed. So the Fed has to respond. And if they did nothing, I think that would be a bearish surprise for markets. In other words, if they just kept it the same, kept the language the same, didn't really change anything. Conversely, I would love to see them say, look, you guys are getting too pessimistic. You guys are getting too bearish. We're trying to tamp things down, but the economy is so strong, we're having a tough time doing it. So the yield curve, which came within, I haven't even checked this morning. I should have checked bonds first thing, but the yield curve came within a few bips of inverting yesterday, okay? Yield curve has always been inverted during recession. So that is when the short-term rates are above the long-term rates. And what that says to markets is that people short-term think things are going to get really bad, so they're moving into the quote-unquote safe asset of bonds. That buying pressure pushes the front-end yields above the long-end yields, and that is an indication of recession. Now, it does not always indicate a recession, but all recessions have inverted yield curves. So that is why it's a bearish sign. And it's a really weird thing given we're nowhere near a recession, and the Fed would have to do a lot more to put us there. We're not even seeing the early signs of recession. What you're seeing is the Fed raise aggressively, which can send an economy into a recession. So obviously people are scared, and they're specifically targeting risk assets. So the wealthy, the people who are in markets, the people who own these things, they are the ones feeling it. And they are the ones controlling this narrative right now. So the Fed is doing all that it can, but it cannot really affect prices here, with the exception of asset prices, which in my opinion is the opposite of what they want to be doing. This is very political right now, because you would argue that if your best hedge against inflation is risk assets, right? Like, people always think you want to be in something safe like gold or safe like bonds, because that's a hedge against inflation. That's absolute nonsense. In the very short term, those things may go down less than risk assets during a recession. Over time, risk assets are the only way to beat inflation, because those other instruments, markets are very efficient. They know what those instruments are for. If inflation is 3%, those things are going to yield 3%. That's just how efficient markets are. And risk assets being the only way to beat inflation, that's where I think that the Bitcoin as an inflation hedge argument comes full circle, and it's ironic, okay? Bitcoin is not an inflation hedge for the way and reason most people think it's an inflation hedge, because there's a fixed supply, because it's a safe it's whatever. That is not why Bitcoin is a hedge against inflation. It's because that it is a risk asset, that it is a hedge against inflation, because risk assets over time are how you beat inflation. So they are right for the wrong reasons, and over time they will be right for the wrong reasons. Bitcoin inflation hedge. You heard it here first. Within a week.
Not a hedge against the stock market, which some people seem to think it is. Although, I wonder what this dynamic of this market is going to bring, because we often say history doesn't repeat itself, but it often rhymes. Blah 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 blah. So I mean, we were talking about it this morning, and some people in the DGen dojo were talking about it this morning too. Of like, 2 weeks ago, it didn't feel like 2018, but now it definitely does. So the question is it just now we're getting into 2018 territory, or have we actually been in 2018, but we're just so kind of wrapped up in our own thing and believing that it was not 2018 than it actually has been. And my whole point to this is maybe we're much further along in this 2018-esque cycle than we initially thought we were, because 2018 was actually a really quite a strange time. ETH peaked, of course, Bitcoin peaked late 2017. ETH peaked early 2018 in January. And it was followed by a pretty sharp drop down. It went down a lot, and then it went back up a lot. It held for a little bit, and it was at that point that everybody was like, okay, that was a rough drop, like glad that's over with. And then of course, the sentiment change never really actually happened, and it needed to be smacked down a little bit more. And then it went down a lot. And then it traded sideways for a long time, and everyone's like, oh, okay, we stabilized here. ETH was maybe at like, I can pull up a chart. It was, it was doing all right compared to where it was the previous cycle. And then it was like, maybe we're getting out of this. Maybe we're getting, okay, end of 2018 is coming around, and boom, get crushed again. I'm starting to see some parallels here from like our old previous highs, right? We put some time in between it. We kind of had to run back up. We kind of had a
massive multi-year double top, if you think about it, right?
Yeah. We're coming up. We're on a year and a half now. Which is way more extended than 2017 and 2018 was. That was 3 months of pandemonium followed by 3 years of pain. So I'm trying to, in my mind, like find some similarities. I don't know if there is or not, because not only is crypto in an entirely different situation, I think mainstream acceptance has happened, not mainstream adoption. I think people, by and large, generally understand and have accepted that Bitcoin is a thing, and I think Ethereum is in that realm too. I can say to my mom Bitcoin, and she'll go, "Yes, I know of it." Where in 2017 she would be like, "What? What?" It's permeated mainstream culture and mainstream media enough that like the existence is there. Now we're kind of justifying the existence. The market has got a lot bigger. Institutional investors have moved in, and they have taken big positions over that time. And then that is actually a good thing too, because when you're dealing with the scarcity of assets, they're not selling, right? Like they're not selling these dips. They're not day trading their crypto. They're putting it in, and their time horizons are long. So now the supply is going to be a lot more constricted than it was before. I think the initial one was retail pandemonium. The biggest thing that now is the uncertainty is that when crypto crashed the first time, the markets like the S&P and the NASDAQ, they were on an up-only trajectory, and they continued to do so through the entire crypto bear market. Now, the macro backdrop, whether you want to subscribe to what free market's saying and saying we're not in a recession or not in a recession yet, or we absolutely are in a recession, we're looking at an entirely different situation by and large. And we quite frankly don't know how crypto behaves in that. There's the copium side of me, and tell me, you guys and free market, if you agree or disagree with that maybe we're going to reach this this tipping point where, we saw it with meme stocks, and I believe we've seen it with crypto, where people of my age, my generation, which is mid 30s to late 30s, 40s, maybe even, we've gone through these once in a lifetime crashes or whatever multiple times through our lives. Economic pullbacks, jobs being cut, wages not going around. Maybe there is just this underlying demand from people who have gone from college and university students to now being professionals, earning money, looking for things to invest and hold their money in. Maybe there will be a dynamic shift, and maybe that answer is crypto, and maybe that answer is NFTs.
The next bull
run. And I just going to finish off. I think that with the duration that we've gone with crypto being alive and all of that stuff, like I think we could start to see that, but I don't know. But I think free market's about to finish my thought off with when he started saying the next crypto bull market.
Yeah, I think the next crypto bull market is going to come not because crypto exists. And that's why the last bull market is here. It's just like
2018, 100% was just speculative, like, oh, this is cool. Let's trade this. Oh,
no one knows what it is. No one understands it. It's just this thing that crypto exists that's hot, so everybody invest in it. The next bull run is going to come because of the applications built on top of crypto. So,
which, I mean, bring it back to the internet. All of those speculative trades were just because the internet companies were there. Like, this is a cool new asset class. Like, let's buy the fuck out of this. Ooh, like, it had this huge crashed, traded sideways for a long time, chilled. And now the internet is, the most important piece of technology that's ever been created. And the prices reflect that if you rewind 15 years now, right?
Yep. And the first part of the internet adoption phase was in the 70s and 80s when servers and computers became viable.
IBM.
Yeah. And then the internet, the first application widely adopted built on top of these computers, became very popular in the 90s and noughts. And now this decentralized thing that we're building on top of that is like investing in the servers and the computers initially. These are just the building parts, the things that Chainlink does, the thing that Bitcoin does, the thing that Ethereum does. It's just the tools people will use to build the applications that change the world. So how do you get bullish? You go to something like Consensus and you see what's being built. The next, billion-dollar sector or trillion-dollar sector within crypto is going to come out of Consensus or one of those conferences and the things people are working on over there. So there's 3 trillion, 2.9 to be exact, dollars on the sideline, waiting for a clear signal to come back into risk assets. And that money is going to flow into tech, okay? It has flowed into commodities and energy largely over the past 2 years. And right now, all they're telling you out there is energy is going higher. Oh my God, it's so high. Invest in energy and blah, blah, blah. That's what they tell you at the top, just like they told you that at the top in everything. Maybe we just experienced that in crypto when people were very bullish at 4,000, okay? And now you're seeing it with oil. People are very bullish at $120. Well, where has oil come from? Negative $20, okay? Oil went from negative 20 to 120 in the last 2 years, and nobody wanted it at negative 20. Now everybody wants it at 120. It's the same thing. People get absolutely bearish on the wrong things and bullish on the wrong things at the bottom and vice versa. And we're seeing that in energy right now. So I think that 3 trillion on the sidelines, which makes this different. This makes this different from 2020. This makes it different from 2009. In 2009 and in 2020, we needed massive coordinated government action to get liquidity back into the system or shit was going to break. Okay. People weren't working and leaving their house in 2020. Liquidity go bye-bye. The banks were completely 40x levered up in 2009. No liquidity on the actual books. We go bye-bye. Right now, that is not the case we're in. You are talking about the tightest labor market in your life. You're talking about $3 trillion in cash on the sideline. They are just waiting for the all clear. This is not going to be the prolonged secular bear that, perma bears who are shining, right? Everyone is making fun of perma bulls for 6 months, but nobody paid them any mind for 10 years. Thought they were idiots. Oh, you dumb optimist. It's all going to come crashing down. You dumb optimist. It's all going to come crashing down. 10 years later, they're right. And they're all celebrating right now. And then the perma bears are going to be wrong for another 10 years. And then they're going to be right for 6 months. The same thing every time.
Yeah, I'm just going to bring up what Chipper said there. Just graduated college and a ton of people interested in crypto. Not as many are interested in NFTs at the moment from the people I know. And I'm curious. I'm always interested in hearing from people that are in that kind of situation, like the college, even high school, recently graduated, to figure out where the sentiment is there, because that interest is going to follow them. Ideally, that interest is going to follow them from recently graduated into 10 years from now, where now they have really good earning potential. They're making some money. They're starting to save. They're starting to invest a lot of their money. And then the morbid standpoint, maybe there's some family inheritance that starts coming into play. The reality is, as you get older, those things start to happen. That interest translates in. So if you can be 10 years ahead of that interest, right, which is what Chipper is basically saying now, is that by and large, there's probably a larger percentage of university or college students that are interested in crypto and NFTs versus people in their 30s, and much higher than people in their 40s, and much higher than people in their 50s, 60s, 70s, et cetera, right? So, you have this cohort that's going to be essentially growing up, and you want to be going to where they're going, right? Because that's where the money starts to flow. That's my idea too. I mean, some people have funny indexes that they look at to do this. For restaurant entrepreneurs, this one guy had this, he called it the tattoo index, right? He said, follow the tattoos, because people with tattoos, they're cool. They get together, they hang out, they like to do interesting things. They like to go to cool places. If you follow the tattoos and you open up restaurants and cool places around them, you're going to have success, because the value of everything goes up around people with tattoos. That was his own thesis. Agree or disagree, feel free to. But, unfortunately, you and I, free market, we're still young, but we're not that young. Like, the future is sitting in people that are in their 20s, 25s, right? They have all of this, they have this big, early rise to come. And we saw that with the rise of gaming and esports, right? You had this cohort of people that grew up with gaming, that gamed all their lives. The internet kind of really enabled things and kickstarted things, but now those people, like myself and a lot of people are younger, now they consume esports. It's normalized to them to go to a stadium to watch these teams play video games on the biggest stage, and that is only going to be continued to get more normal. Like, my son spends more time watching video games than he does watching Netflix, than he does watching sports, and most of his friends are the exact same way, right? So, if you follow the trajectory of where gaming came from and where gaming is now and where it will continue to be, I think you can do the same thing with crypto, because I do think, regardless of the price, the interest is always increasing.
Imagine if Ninja, that's a guy, right? Is Ninja a guy? Okay. Imagine if Ninja had a character that he used to win like the world championship of blah, 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 and then he put it up for sale on OpenSea.
100%. That actually does happen.
I bet, right, on the non NFT secondary markets and shit, right?
There is that, but so NFTs in a sense have already kind of existed on the Steam network, where you can buy and sell those assets for real money, but that money in a lot of sense is locked up in the Steam. Like you kind of have to reuse that money that you make to buy more games or other assets and whatnot, right? Like, so you own it in the sense that you could sell it, but it's like if you could never extract any real world value from NFTs, right? So people do buy and trade those. There's autograph systems on there and whatnot, but it isn't really like true ownership. There's no cross-platforming. There's no real self-custody. There's no interoperability. Like if you own a Rocket League asset, you only own it on Rocket League and you only trade it with Rocket. You know what I mean? So like the ideas and concepts have always, well, not always, they have been there. But now we're looking at the unlocking of it, right? And it's going to take some time for people to see the necessity of that. But you're absolutely right. If somebody wins a world, this has always existed. Now that I'm saying it out loud, people buy fucking autographed Michael Jordan jerseys that he wore in Game 6 of the Eastern Conference Finals and dropped $48 or 48 points, and you know the jersey's worth fucking $500,000, right?
Yep.
And that's real ownership. Why, if Michael Jordan's jersey that he wore and he signed and he sweat in and all this stuff has extreme value, why wouldn't the skin that Ninja wore to win a championship, or the skin that he wore when he streamed with Drake and they tipped someone $50,000 something, why wouldn't that have value?
Right.
Of course it does. Of course it will. Just because it doesn't have value to you doesn't mean that it doesn't have value to somebody else. There's a lot of people that will not say, I don't understand why Pokemon cards are valuable, but people still buy and sell them for $1 million.
Especially that Charizard, I hear.
Yeah, the holographic.
Dragon.
I think that was Logan Paul, yeah. BCC is not a hedge against inflation. It is a hedge against currency devaluation.
So is the Spider ETF. Right?
The what now?
If you believe that Bitcoin's a hedge against currency devaluation, then the S&P 500 is too, right?
Gotcha.
I think anything that goes up over time, they just go up for different reasons. And if you think the reason for Bitcoin going up is more compelling than the reason for the S&P 500 going up, I suppose. But I just think that risk assets in general are your best hedge against currency devaluation. Your worst hedge is debt and bonds. That's why this is where America is so brilliant, because we lent out all the dollars to the rest of the world, and now we're just going to print that debt into
yeah, that was
okay. This is 4D chess right now. This is why the rest of the world hates us. And look, y'all bought it.
That was actually an incredibly fascinating discussion, because oil, all these things were traded in US dollars. Everything was pegged to US dollar. It became the global kind of reserve currency. The US started printing it, and all these other nations went, wait, you're devaluing your currency, but you're giving more of it to your own citizens, and we're not getting any of it. All of a sudden, all of these prices are going up, but we're not the recipients of this influx of liquidity.
Which again, remember, it's absolute, and they manipulate us with a trade imbalance, because all of those dollars are going over. It all works, okay? It all balances out. That's why this is the happy, go lucky, ha world you live in. Isn't everything? Right. Smile.
Why is this showing up on there? Oops. What is that? Marco said something, but it didn't show up on the side there. Oh, sorry, man.
Sorry. Oh, no.
Yeah, no. Well, okay. So for anybody, because I just realized you guys can't see that. Marco said, just catching up with the street, BTC is not a hedge against inflation. It's a hedge against currency devaluation. Sorry if I already read that. I can't remember. but I think I can just click it. There we go. There. That's what he said.
I actually think crypto is a bet on population growth. So I think it's driven by the same factors as fiat.
Yeah, it is. There's a lot to dig into with those. Right now, ETH sitting at just over $1,200, $1,216 to be exact. Up a little bit on the hour, up a little, or down a little bit on the 24-hour. Bitcoin actually having more of a rough day than ETH did.
Yeah, that started happening yesterday as ETH looked like it was like, all right, I've gone down enough. That's enough now. I'd like to go up. And Bitcoin was like, nope, my turn, motherfucker. And just cascaded it. This is the level at which everybody said Sailor is going to be margin called. He changed his PFP to an even more intense set of laser eyes yesterday. So I'm assuming that means he's laughing at everyone that's saying he's going to be margin called. He's down about $1 billion on 4 billion.
I don't not that bad.
I don't know where. I don't know exactly where he. It's all speculation on where he would be forced to do anything. Let's see. Everyone was saying 21K, and now that we got there, I hear everyone saying 16K. So it seems like we need to go lower and lower to actually break him, but we will see.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I wonder like what kind of situation they're actually in, because I think everybody at this point just assumes MicroStrategy, 100% of that company's value is in Bitcoin, right? Like when you look at the market cap of the company, like it's a Bitcoin ETF essentially, but it's not. I mean, it is a cash generating business. Obviously he has leveraged a lot of that cash generation into buying more Bitcoin, but if all of this stuff has to do with attention in the last 2 years, there's been tons of attention on MicroStrategy. So there's probably got to be some kind of underlying growth in their core business too, I would think. Down $1 billion on BTC plus down pretty bad on his MicroStrategy stake. I just don't think he cares. I mean, there will cross a point where it doesn't matter if he cares or not. Hey, look, if this all plays out like we think we will, like I think it will, and he doesn't get margin called, and crypto, it is. Yeah. If he doesn't get margin called and it plays out like we think it will, I mean, there's a good chance in 10 years, like it looks like the best play of.
Yeah, that's if he changes it into fiat in 2029. He'll leave it right in Bitcoin, and it'll fall from $250,000 to 10 grand, and he'll just round trip that.
You think if it goes to $250,000, we'll round trip back to 10 grand?
I think we'll fall.
I don't want to say can't, but
I think we'll fall to 60 next time. That's where I think we're gonna fall, 45 to 60. If I say we're gonna fall to 60, then it'll probably fall to 45. Yeah, 250K by 2029, 45 by 3031.
Catfish asking the homie, what are your thoughts on ETH 2.0? If it hot dropped today, would it have much / any impact? I think it would be very short-lived. I don't think it matters right now.
It's the pre-merge that will have the most impact, because for technical reasons, the buy pressure will go away for a short amount. I mean, the sell pressure will go away for a short amount of time. ETH will magically levitate into the merge. Then all that ETH is going to be unlocked. And what do we think is going to happen after that?
Yeah, I think obviously over time, it increases the value of the network substantially. Like, I think it's the most important thing that will ever happen to Ethereum. But I think, in the short term, I don't think that this market setting is one that is relying on news or good news to change its fortunes.
Something that crypto people ignore is that environmental factor, right? Because it's annoying, because inexperienced morons spout the same media party line to you, and you kind of just dismiss it or whatever. Well, Ethereum's energy usage is going to fall by almost 90%. That probably means something to all the idiots who are like, NFTs are bad for the environment. I'm not gonna,
Do
blah
you
blah.
think that they're moving the needle though? Like, do you like right now or in the last year, 2 years, let's say, do you think that the real environmental implications of ETH has had any negative impact on the price?
Kill a false narrative with another false narrative. Oh, ETH is eating up all this energy. Look, we just lowered it by 90%. Report that. Channel news.
Yeah, they won't. 99% actually.
Is it 99%?
Yes, it's substantial. It is very, very big.
So no,
you're right. It is just a narrative killer. But I can guarantee you, the price of ETH when it was at its high, what was it? Almost $5,000. If that energy narrative hadn't existed, I don't think it would have been $6,000.
I agree. But this next phase is not going to be because crypto just exists. It's got to be there for a reason. And that reason is going to come from the masses. We can tell them what they want. They have to adopt what they adopt. And I think taking the environmental argument out of their arsenal is a good thing.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. You now, cut them off at the legs. They don't have that leg to stand on. They have to find another one. But the next one will be less substantial, because here's the thing: we live in an environment, no pun intended. We live in a situation where you can't trying to tell somebody that the environmental narrative is false can easily demonize you. What, you don't care about the environment? You know what I mean? Like it's such an easy clapback for somebody that is using the environmental narrative against whatever it is, whether it's crypto or anything else. What, you don't care about the environment? You're like, no, that's not what I say, But if that's gone, it becomes easier. I think the efficiency of ETH, the throughput, the transactability increasing dramatically is going to have profound effects on the network. I know that sounds super obvious, but increase the value, increase the usage.
The great things about ETH too are not the stuff that is like advertised to your average person, just like any phone upgrade, right?
Sure, yeah.
Stuff that makes your phone better. No one wants, oh, you put that many more cores on the system on a chip. What does that mean to the average person? It means nothing, right?
Does it load TikTok faster?
Right. But that's actually what makes the phone usable, work better with the more complicated apps. So when people go to use ETH and it just works better and it's cheaper, and it's just all of a sudden those decisions become easier for them. And, I would say too, I thought about this last night. Let's say we went into a nightmare scenario of ETH ranging between like 1,000 and 1,500 for the next 2 years. I think NFTs would do pretty well in an environment like that. I think they would do really well. I think NFTs are a new type of Netflix. I think people who are in entertainment look at them that way. This is a new outlet for me to express myself and make money. I don't think that's going anywhere. Making it cheaper and faster is going to increase that effect. So,
well, and here's the one big argument, and I'm not saying this to scare or dissuade anybody or whatever, but tell me why. And again, I believe I'm being contrarian and just saying this and asking this, but tell me why ETH should be $10,000.
Exactly. Of course,
ETH is more valuable from a network standpoint at $10 because the transactions are, 1/100th of what they are right now at the same gas, because
exactly
the value of it is. So explain to me, and again, I do think the price of ETH go up. Don't worry, that's not what I'm saying. But in your mind, start to wrap your head around why should ETH be worth $10,000? Why do we want it to be worth $10,000? Well, because we want to make money. But does that matter to the dispassionate, the network, right? The network doesn't have feelings. The network doesn't care. It just needs to operate the way that it's programmed to, and it doesn't matter if ETH is $10,000 or $10.
They're, just like stable coins exist, they're going to come up with things people can trade on these networks that the price of Ether, which is, again, it's the price of gas, right? Isn't that what we're trading? here. It's effectively,
nobody ever accuses the price of gas going up to mean that the price of cars should go up.
and it's just going to be about revenues, right? The more gas the network makes, the more valuable ether is going to be. So,
and
ether,
and it is the economic incentive for people to participate in securing the network.
And that's it. And it's a pretty obvious revenue model, right? Gas go up, the price of ether should be more valuable, period. And
that's making more people want to participate in decentralizing the network and securing it and being rewarded for doing so. It is important that the prices go up. I think a lot of people don't think about the reasons of why it should go up.
But what you're pointing out is the irony in that is one of the headwinds to that is more expensive ETH. It's counterintuitive. More expensive ETH on its face would discourage people from using gas more because it's more expensive, right? It's one of these economic factors, unless the applications or unless the truck you are driving on the network is making you more money than the gas that you're paying. So it's really about bidding on the right trucks, okay? Yeah. Semi-autos that go across the country use a shit ton of gas, but the things that are shipped in them make the people more money than that gas. And that's how you have to view the network, right? The price of gasoline has gone up over time. The price of oil has gone up over time, but it's volatile and variable, yet it is what the world runs on. And this is how you would look at Ether as well. The Ethereum network is more valuable today at Ether 1200 than it was 2 years ago at Ether 1200. Okay, remember, Ether, the token, is not, because it's whatever it is now, 200 billion or 300, whatever the market cap is, right?
I think you might be surprised.
Right? Whatever it is, 100 billion. So,
oh, no, it's 150, yeah.
Yeah, 150 billion, right? That is, this is not the value of the Ethereum blockchain. The Ethereum blockchain is probably worth trillions currently. That doesn't mean that the token on it needs to be worth trillion. The token on it is a gauge of the demand for the gas, the demand for the transactions on the network.
So to use it, yeah.
Right. The asset
number goes up when people need to use it, right?
Mm-hmm. The assets built on Ethereum are worth a lot more than Ether, and their value isn't going to be expressed necessarily. It's not going to be expressed in a 1-for-1 correlation with Ether, the token. So things built on top of ETH are where the majority of money is going to be made. I do think, though, a mass adopted ETH is going to get to 100K. It's just it's going to be the trucks that are paying for that gas, and then it's going to be the people paying things on the trucks, not people buying the gas, so to say.
Yeah, and this is why ETH 2.0 is necessary, though, because ETH can go to 100K, but if that means that every gas transaction was going to be $1,000,
it makes no sense.
It doesn't make any sense. So that's where L2s come in, and that's also where ETH 2.0 comes in. The price of gas gets substantially lower, which allows for many magnitudes greater volume of transactions, like the ability for more people to use it simultaneously, and those little numbers kind of add up.
And it's not the last time. It's not the last time either. There will be a situation 10 years from now where ETH can be 100K and transactions on the network can be $1.
Sure, yeah.
It's about efficiencies and how the network is built out. So.
James asking, what are your thoughts on staking 32 ETH for a validator? It's a lot cheaper to do it.
Yeah, if you are in any even remote position to do this is your time. I mean, this is your chance. Okay, you go back to January and it costs you over 120 grand to build one of these validators. That price now is under 40 grand. So this is the time. This is the time.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't have 32 ETH to do it, you will be able to join pools and whatnot for probably
Rocket Pool is
yeah
the
a very
famous.
a very low fee to the pool. But yeah, I mean, I remember back when they were first talking about proof of stake and what they were going to do. The number was actually the number was actually 100. That was the first number that was floated out there. What do you have any knowledge or information as to why 32 is important? Like why it can't be lower?
Nope, no idea.
That'd be something to look into.
I will be taking a course on it, and I will report back everything I learned on the show.
Yeah. Jim Cramer turns bearish on crypto. Is that good? Are we feeling good about that?
I do not subscribe to the Jim Cramer is a contra nonsense. I think he goes through streaks where he's wrong and he goes through streaks where he's right. And I would not agree or disagree with him based on a meme. And that's all that this contra shit is. It's so stupid, right? Like, this guy is on TV for 20 years analyzing markets. Okay. He's going to make some very wrong calls. He's going to make some very right calls. Nobody talks about his very right calls. They only talk about his very wrong calls. And you don't even know whether his right calls outweighed his wrong calls. But based on his hedge fund record, which was one of the best of all time when his hedge fund shut down, I would say he probably knows what he's doing. He probably understands markets, and his view is valuable. People who are good analysts, their view is valuable whether what they've extrapolated from that analysis is right or not. It is your job to separate what is bias versus what is unbiased analysis. And everybody has their biases, okay? But there are great analysts out there. Zero Hedge is a perfect example, right? If you guys have been in financial markets, you've probably heard about a blog called Zero Hedge. It is the biggest bear porn blog in the world. They have been calling for the utter collapse of Western society since 2006 or something, right? And anytime we have a 2009 or a 2013 or a 2020 or a 2022, they're like, oh, this is it. This was the big collapse we were trying to call and blah, blah, blah. Now, they have been wrong on most of their quote unquote calls, but the analysis on that site is second to none. They break down things and angles of the market nobody else has or can. It's your job to take that data and make an extrapolation with it. But I would say that Jim Cramer is a fabulous analyst. He was obviously one of the best hedge fund managers of all time. And sometimes he's right and sometimes he's wrong. And I agree with him sometimes and I don't agree with him sometimes. Today, I agree with him that we are not in a recession, and there's a very good chance we're not going to go into a recession. And that has nothing to do with the bad things going on. It has to do with the good things going on that everybody is ignoring. Everybody is ignoring that underneath the surface, it's the strongest economy the West has seen in decades. That is what is mitigating us going into a deep recession right now. And his take on crypto, I would say that he has been all over the place with his calls. I don't think he is wrong necessarily, right? Crypto is bearish right now, but he could change on a dime. He changed on a dime the other month. I don't think he's making a long-term bearish call on crypto and saying it's done. Why don't you read the article and see if they have some context for that one headline? Because I could probably give more. Is it just that tweet, or do they have any context with it?
Yeah. Here's what happens in these situations. The people with a lot invested in crypto will come in and make a stand. It's Braveheart, you said, referencing the 1990 film. Crypto need the big crypto lovers to buy and stabilize. I mean, this is all obvious stuff. The thing is, I mean, you got to just remember, like, Jim Cramer the hedge fund person is probably substantially different than Jim Cramer, the entertainer, right? Like, you know, it's in so many people's best interest to just take strong stances on something, because in the middle statements don't get any play, right? Like, Jim Cramer is his own attention token. Him yelling stuff like this gets people fired up. So yeah, it is just probably a sensationalized headline and all of that. You know, they don't provide enough context, though.
No.
What else we got? NFT volume actually went up yesterday, 50% up from a very low number, but still 50% up. I do think, GMRA, I do think that, were we talking about this on the show or the pre-show? Sometimes I can't remember. We normally just talk for about 45 minutes and then click go live and then continue our conversation. But I think dollar value going down is enticing for a lot of people right now, right? So it doesn't surprise me to see NFTs. In the meantime, we'll have these little swells and buy ups and stuff like that. And, you know, as that volume kind of comes back in and people that were bag holding see a quick opportunity to sell. Yeah, like, I do think that the sell pressure can still be higher, but, you know, there's going to be a lot of people just silently, quietly accumulating their own bags in the background as this, you know, NFT value becomes a lot lower in terms of USD as the ETH crashes, right? So It doesn't surprise me to see that you will see NFTs doing well here and there. I think by and large, if crypto is tied to a macro economy backdrop of like global terms, I do think that NFTs, at least right now, are going to be tied to the macro backdrop of crypto, and you know, it's going to be hard for NFTs to maintain their attention during these times, for sure. I mean, even this show, right? Predominantly, we talk about NFTs, but nobody wants to talk about NFTs much because there's much bigger fish to fry. But there's some deals out there if you're liquid. Some good deals.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking about it yesterday too, because you see like the 8 bot been going crazy, the Kaiju bot been going crazy, but it's all at absurdly low prices, right? Because it's not just low in ETH. ETH is falling 60%, 70%, right? So you're seeing just these absurd, but there's somebody else on the other end of those buys, right? There are liquid, wealthy people right now scooping up all the NFTs because people are scared and need liquidity, right? This is the worst time to pay. NFTs are down 90% off their highs when you factor in, I mean, all of them. When you factor in ETH as well and US dollar value, I mean, unless you really think ETH is going to fall into a multi-year bear market under $1,000, I don't know how you could panic sell NFTs, especially if they're decent ones. You know, talking about mutant.
Unless you have to.
Unless you have, of course. Real life obligations are real life obligations. But I'm saying the idea to sell it because you're scared and don't know what to do. This is, you know.
I also want to put some context towards NFTs in the grand scheme of things too, because I mean, obviously, really became prolific and rose to, you know, some fame and some, you know, attention last year, right? 2021, summer of 2021, fall, you know, beginning of this year. NFTs were everywhere, as all people were talking about. NFTs have survived their own crypto bear market as a technology. They have. They've been around since 2017. CryptoKitties was everybody was talking about CryptoKitties back in 2017, 2018. Huge dollar values being traded on them. You know, Decentraland, land, like, you know, all of these things existed back then. The use case, I wasn't as thought through back then. Obviously, some really forward thinkers probably saw it and went, yes, like super cool. I myself being in it went, what the fuck is this? This is just madness, right? And there is some cope, there's some regret, but everybody needs that seed planted at some point, right? Like you need to go through a rejection and a denial phase first before you could really have conviction in something. You don't just wake up and be like, this is it, right? So many people did that in 2014, 2015 with Bitcoin. Like you heard the term, especially if you were spending a lot of time on the internet. You knew that it existed. You looked into it and go, I don't really understand the use case of it. But all of a sudden in 2017, even before the big rally, you start to look at it again, it pops up, you see a little bit more activity. Maybe you hear some people talking about it on the street and you go, that's still a thing? I mean, I better look into this again. You look into it and go, well, it survived this long. Like maybe there's something there, right? NFTs are in that. This wasn't something that just popped up last year, like the ICO craze of 2017, 2018, where it was like decentralized Uber, decentralized hotels, decentralized real estate, decentralized everything. We're going to decentralize your fucking coffee maker. And it died because why? A lot of that didn't have a use case, but NFTs were there too. And they survived. And that's what got me into NFTs a bit earlier than the crazy bull run, but not early enough to like be holding a bag of Bored Apes or anything. But all of a sudden, people I knew and respected, like free market and all of this stuff, had been still saying, NFTs are still here. NFTs. I'm like, shit, those things are still around. They survived. So there.
Case for crypto right now. It's your best use case for crypto. I can't think of a better one at the moment. Though I'm sure a consensus there are a bunch of great ideas that are going to usher in the new bull run in blockchain technology. So crypto art is a generative art project that takes blocks on the Ethereum network and puts them into a GON that visualizes them into pretty pieces of techie looking art. That's some of my favorite like nerd art on the blockchain. Its historic significance is that the genesis of the project predates what was largely considered the first generative art project, which is autoglyphs. There are discrepancies and reasons as to why these aren't anywhere near the price of autoglyphs. Autoglyphs probably have a 50 to 100 ETH floor right now. I haven't looked in a long time. Visually, 189 ETH. They were up to over 500 during the bull run, and that's when ETH was $4,000. So they were certainly much higher at one point in USD value. They're completely on chain. The art was generated on chain. This art is generated on the guy's server off chain and then minted to the chain. That is a big deal to these nerdy generative art collectors. That said, it is a historic project in its own right. It's beautiful. It also, I think it's very nerdy in a good way. Like that's a visualization of an ETH block. Like I feel like you would love to have something like that on your wall. Like that's a very, and if you're in this business, that's just a very interesting piece. I think they look visually cool. And during the bull run last year, I believe the floor pieces got up to 0.75. Now, if you happen to own one of the ones that was minted before autoglyphs minted, which is April 2019. So all the ones earlier in 2019 or minted in 2018 are considered history. They get quite the premium. I think the floor on them was 1 or 2 ETH last time I looked.
On the whole project or the new ones or the old ones, sorry, the historic ones?
You would have to organize it by date. If you click 2018 There's about 500 paintings there. I think the floor is probably 3 ETH if you go to the properties and look at 2018.
Yeah, I'll check that out. Yeah, so these minted December 30th, December 31st, 2018. Someone saw that 10 months ago and picked it up for an ETH and then flipped it weeks later for 38. That's incredible. What a fucking trade. Yeah. What an aptly named account too, Crypto Research.
I do think the floor on those ones from early 19 and 2018 will get up to, you know, maybe half of what autoglyphs are at any given time. As people, I think these are prettier than autoglyphs and people are going to like that. I also think that on the next run of generative art, these are going to get that, you know, this is the poor man's history right here.
This one is from July 2018.
Yeah. So I do think these are going to go to 1 ETH on the floor ones during the next bull run, and the next bull run defined by Gen Art and gaming, I believe.
Yeah, sitting there, 0.08 right now. Yeah. Definitely cheaper than autoglyphs.
I started getting very bearish on PFPs and Metaland right after the Other Deed sale. And Bored Apes have fallen from $400,000 to $80,000 in USD since then. I do think they're getting attractive on a dollar cost basis, but I also think they're probably dead money longer than other things. You know what I think? And I don't love them, but I think Kongs are going to come back, and I think Punks are going to be the first PFP that really gets off the mat here. And in that vein, you know, I'm a big fan of MFers. That was quite the controversy, the way Satoshi left.
Oh, we never even spoke about that.
Yeah, it was crazy timing. He did an open edition on his way out the door, which many people called a cash grab. And he deactivated the Satoshi account, one of the best meme accounts in all of crypto and NFT Twitter. And he handed half of the future royalties and the current wallet over to the community that is formed around MFers. Now, I don't know what they intend to do with the wallet or what is going to happen going forward. These, I had been saying in the...
Well, let's dig into it. Like, why? Why did this happen?
This was his plan all along, as he stated in the original mandate. So Satoshi, from the beginning, said that the MFers are the MFers. That's all they are. Nothing else is coming. There is nothing here. It is the communities. Then the community started an unofficial Discord. They were holding unofficial spaces. And then we saw the big run, obviously, we saw earlier in the year. But all Satoshi did was act on the promise that he made earlier, which was he was eventually going to leave the project. I don't think he hinted he was going to leave Twitter completely, but again, he handed the wallet and the project over to the community, and he also announced an open edition for 0.069 of a stick figure saying GN or good night. And I want to say he made like $1 million off that mint or something, which rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. They were saying he rugged the MFers.
And where do you stand on that?
Yeah, rug is a little, it's, again, we use rug in this industry to denote anything we don't like because it's a fun word to say, right? So, of course, anytime a project like Goblins or MFers or whatever runs to 7 ETH or 9 ETH, well, only so many people own the NFT. Everybody else is salty. Nobody else understands it. These things are fucking stupid. They're stick figures. It makes no sense, you know, all of that. When you give them an avenue to actually have some valid criticism, they're going to jump in, exaggerate, fud the shit out of it, do whatever they can to blah, blah, blah. The reason, at least personally, I was bullish on MFers doesn't change. In fact, you could argue it's stronger now that the guy is gone. And, we don't know if he's never coming back. I mean, Michael Jordan and Jay-Z retired 10 times in a row. Everyone was like, oh, yeah, this was his last project till he comes back with his next last project. Like, blah, 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 blah. All the standard stuff you would hear. But this, to me, was the greatest meme and definition of the NFT bull market that we just went through. It's classic. And the major thing that got me like 10 ETH or more bullish on them was when DC Investor adopted it as the CCO profile of choice. This is the rebellious NFT. This is the fuck you NFT, right? This is how simple and dumb NFTs can be and still be worth something, NFT. So I think that is actually enhanced by Satoshi being mysterious and disappearing and all that. I didn't mint the open edition. I was like, meh, it's an open edition. I'll buy it for half the price on OpenSea in a week or two, whatever it is. I don't particularly care that he did it. It's up to you whether you want to mint it or not. I mean, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me, right? Not a lot of people minted it relative to, NFT sales in general. I bet you one day they're valuable. Everyone's laughing, blah, blah, blah. I don't know. I bet you one day those stupid things are actually worth money. I bet when 20, 30 ETH in the next few years, those things will be worth an ETH. And people paid 0.069 for them. So whatever. I am as bullish as I was on them before. This doesn't change my view on them. And if it's wrong, it's wrong. But it didn't change the reason I was bullish. I was not bullish on these because I thought that this master Satoshi was going to come out with an amazing roadmap and turn MFers into Yuga. Never crossed my mind. In fact, I'll tell you what my first reaction was. When he was like announcing the next phase of MFers, I was like, next phase? What is he even fucking talking about next phase? Like, and then we were in the DGen dojo and there's a bunch of MFer holders in there and it was all like, oh, what do you think it could be? I was like, I honestly have no idea. I told them, I think they're actually going to crash after this announcement. I said, what could it be? What could he possibly announce that would make the value of MFers go up, right? I was like, they're going to crash afterwards. And they crashed afterwards. So for me, everything is not only in place from before my thesis, but the price action I expected to see, I'm seeing. And it's based off that there's no volume on OpenSea. I would expect anything to crash. The only way something could pump is with some mysterious unknown announcement that people can. The moment you get an announcement, everything's going to fall. One day, MFers will pump again when general volume comes back because it is an elite collection. And that's all it is to me. So bullish on MF. I love them here. They were 1 ETH yesterday. I was like, oh boy, they're back up to 1.4. But when they're under 2, I think that's a buy. And hell, I have a hard time believing it. But if they dip to 0.7, 0.8, 0.9, I still think that was a buy. Just with ETH at $1,000, it's hard for me to see these things going much fucking lower. But hey,
yeah.
I think the ETH price is. I really think what this is defining is that the ETH price is irrelevant in both directions. Like, there's a certain amount of ETH that exists in the ecosystem, and when NFTs are hot, that amount of ETH is going to pump NFTs. It doesn't really matter what the underlying price of ETH is, right? The ETH flows to where it's hot. That's why, like, anytime someone says, "Oh, this thing's 100 ETH," well, it's fucking ETH. Like there are people with hundreds of thousands of ETH. It used to cost nothing. It means nothing to them. These prices can get a lot crazier than we expect in ETH terms, and I think the same goes the other way. It can get bizarrely low if you're thinking about it in USD because this is an ETH economy. When the ETH is there, it comes a lot more. than people think. And when it leaves a lot more than people think. I think the ETH price it's largely irrelevant in the midst of NFT bull markets. During NFT bull markets, it's really about flow, right? Like there's a lot of ETH out there. It could pump these things really fucking high.
Yeah, if people don't want ETH, they're not transferring it into NFTs. They're transferring it into dollar.
Yeah.
DC Investor, if you guys don't follow him, is a fantastic follow. I would imagine probably most of you do. But
literally called the bear market at the top and just made his first buy yesterday. So these are the type of people you want to follow. Kobe, Panda, DC Investor. These are sharps. Okay, they told you this was coming for months.
And not at all bearish on NFTs or crypto overall, too. Short-term bearish. They really do see the entire picture. But I mean, this is somebody that I wish I had listened to and followed back when I knew and was aware of him highly on Reddit, on the ETH Trader subreddit. He was very, very active, very, very insightful and knowledgeable about all of this stuff, and obviously made a huge name for himself on Twitter after the fact. But again, going back to some of this context that I was trying to say earlier, I remember when Mt. Gox happened. I think most people should be familiar with Mt. Gox, but a massive crypto exchange collapse. Still issues with what happened then today. I was new to crypto and didn't understand, thought the tech was flawed and capitulated my BTC. Many will make similar mistakes with custodial crypto banks and algo stables failing this time. This will create tremendous opportunity. Good night again. Again, history doesn't repeat itself, but it often rhymes. We see it time and time again. This stuff happens. When the lights turn on in the club, you get to see how attractive the person you were flirting with really is. The lights have come on. Some of this stuff was not worth how much it has been worth over the past year. Some of them did not have the liquidity that they said they did. Some of them were not as stable as they said they did. We're seeing it with Celsius. We saw it with Luna. This stuff is going to get shaken out, just like we saw BitConnect and all the bullshit that happened in 2018. There was lots of shit coins even back in 2014, 2013 when Mt. Gox happened. That stuff gets shaken out. But if you just, keep your eyes on the prize. And again, this is all your own personal circumstance. If you are banking on any of this money to make a difference or pay for things in your real life, take that seriously, because you have to protect yourself in the short term to be able to realize the long term in this stuff. But if you are in a situation where that ETH doesn't need to go anywhere, or those NFTs don't need to go anywhere, I think there's a very, very high percentage of likelihood that we easily get back to where we have been and all-time highs and all that stuff. Crypto has died so many times, and there will be junk that absolutely goes to zero. But when you're playing with the real ones, Bitcoin and ETH now, like just stay the course. I'm not telling you to buy here. I'm not telling you to mortgage the house or anything like that. But just stay the course. Keep your eyes on the prize, and you'll be all right. Might take a while, but like we said yesterday, I'll say it again today, we're not going to wake up to next week and everything's just going to be back to where it was and be like, boy, that was a rough week, eh? Like, no, this is going to be a grind, guys. You're going to see attention slip. You're going to see people who are around a lot before not be around as much. Some of your Discords, groups, Telegram groups, WhatsApp groups, they're going to go quiet. But I started rebuying, I started DCAing into crypto again when that WhatsApp group that I was in from 2017, 2018 hadn't had a message posted in it in 6 months, 7 months, 8 months. That was peak pain. That was, everybody had lost interest, everybody had moved on, and things were looking juicy again. So, just be patient, continue to learn. Or, now's a good time. If you felt like this was a grind for the last year and a half, take a break. take up another hobby, do something else. It's not the worst thing in the world to you know, diversify your interest too. But just, you know, keep it in your thoughts. We'll get back to where we are, or where we were. We will.
Yes, sir.
All right, man. Anything else you want to talk about?
I'm loving it.
McDonald's?
Yeah, just send in my application.
Nice. All right.
It was the only stock that was green yesterday in the S&P 500.
McDonald's?
The only stock that was green.
Is that right, eh?
Yeah. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
All right, guys. On that note, hour and 20 minutes, not too shabby. Appreciate everyone coming out and doing the thing again. Appreciate you guys chatting away. Let's close this while we're wrapping it up. Again, yeah, just if you're rewatching this, it'll just be mostly market talk. Obviously stocks, all that stuff, all that, you know, the macro situation, the FOMC meeting tomorrow, talked about how that's going to affect things. Talked about Jim Cramer for a little bit. NFTs, not going to say they're looking bullish, but saw a decent little bounce in volume yesterday. You know, keep your eye on what's going on there. There will be some stuff that pops off here and there. There's always some fun stuff that happens in these bear markets, anyways. Alleviate the tensions and put attention on something else for a little bit. But guys, we love you. Thank you so much. Stay safe out there. You know, hold the course. We'll be here for you if you ever need anything from us. Our DMs are, you know, all they require is a friend request and preferably a ping, maybe just to let us know that it is actually you. But yeah, we'll be back tomorrow. We'll do it again. Free market. Get us out of here.
Good luck at the tables, D-Jones.